Hey, mic check, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, Hardy, you're here. Welcome. And apologies if you did just say something. Might have lost you there. Oh, and he's gone. Welcome, everyone. Let me just invite a bunch of people up. Right. Nice to see you all back. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, opinion. Good morning.
Morning, morning. I saw FRC gave back all of its games that it had in pre-market. I shouldn't say all, maybe like half. Speakers filtering in now. Um, quick update on the music. Still working on it. The problem, if I haven't already said, is like Discord kind of hides the ability to, allow bots to access text and voice channels on stage instances, which is what this channel is. So you got to really go a roundabout way of doing things. But I'm still trying to figure it out. That being said, they've got a soundboard coming out on April 6th, so that should be fun. Um, but yeah.
Your right,
Also, I'm gonna.
your right opinion? You sound a little under the weather, buddy.
I don't know. I guess maybe.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can?
Looks like Hardy's stuck with the
I need you
RTC
to say,
connecting.
yeah, talk to me. I got a head issue with my speaker.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, I'll keep
I am,
talking. So also, yeah, Egon was right. Deutsche Bank did go green. I was just as surprised as everyone else. Thanks, T Prince, for that. I just never doubt Egon until we turn him to Nuggets. No, I'm just kidding. We would never do that,
I
right?
chuckled. That was good. That was good.
I mean, that's if he's wrong.
That's
Maybe-
true.
Maybe we
Hold on. I already
should turn Kramer
have
to Nuggets.
priority on the waiver wire with T Prince for Egon. If and when he does pass, I have promised to pay her $5 million for his carcass, so that way I may harvest the tendies.
Oh
But
man,
T-Prince,
for
You better hope Lucid does something fierce.
hey,
For everyone,
T-Prince
just
promised me 3 tail feathers, so you're going to get the carcass minus 3 tail feathers.
That's fine. That's 100% fine.
for everyone just joining, I see we
Yüce
just had like
şanslarına
a,
yanar. Şimdi dört gelirse, 4-5.
all right, thank you for that, Charming. Yeah, for everyone just joining, because we just got a blast of new people, I want to reiterate what we've talked about already. We talked about Egon getting Deutsche Bank right. He is our resident chicken, and he's got a pretty good record so far. We've also talked about the soundboard coming out soon, April 6th, and us hopefully getting music on these talks. Hardy's still having trouble connecting, which is a little bit funny. Oh, there he is. Let's try one more time, Hardy.
Minor correction. Minor correction opinion. He's not a chicken. He's a stock cock.
uh, I've very much enjoyed all the cock jokes. Don't get me wrong. Hardy, yes, we can hear you. And mindless to answer your question, I did not sue Reddit. Believe it or not, I am not Jamie Rogozinski. Um, and I take great offense to that. Why is
Morning, Hardy. How you doing, buddy? We haven't heard from you for a while.
Wait, I heard. So you're not the guy who created WallStreetBets?
no, I'm not. And fun fact, WallStreetBets has never been run by an American person. Yeah,
So
the
who runs it?
well,
Canadians, the Canadians, eh?
the first head mod was a Mexican. Second head mod was very briefly Australian. Sorry, he wasn't briefly an Australian, but he was briefly the head mod. And I'm Canadian, so as of yet, there's no American head mod. But things could change.
I think you need a head mod from the
That's what I
UK.
heard.
We need a.
Sounds
Sorry,
like
go ahead,
Wall Street
Gino.
Bets need some democracy.
uh, All right. Well, now that we've all settled in, we've got around 350 people, so we can't screen share. Let's talk about some plays, guys. What do we got today? With 50 minutes to pre-market.
Anybody wanna talk about Alibaba? What's going on with that?
I mean, that actually perfectly matches in what I was going to speak about. Yesterday, I discussed JD.com, and I mean, I had a similar thesis for Alibaba, both being kind of underpriced compared to traditional American stocks such as Amazon, who I suppose they're comparable to. And yesterday, Yahoo Finance, I saw a article talking about a two-stage free cash flow to equity, given a fair value estimate of JD.com. And yeah, I mean, it was fairly aligned with my thesis of them being undervalued. They've got a much lower P/E ratio than a lot of American compatriots. Obviously, I know there's a lot of issues at the moment.
Companies or entities that they announced this morning. So I picked up calls last week because I felt like it was beat down. It was around like 80 to 85, and it just looked like it was kind of consolidating around there. And it also looked like it hit a double bottom. And I just had a feeling, I mean, at minimum, it was going to hit at least 90. I mean, I could have sold the calls. I mean, this past, I don't know, maybe Friday or something when it hit popped into 88. I mean, I kept holding through on it. I mean, I ended up closing out yesterday. I think they were down, I don't know, maybe like 60 cents or $60 per call. And obviously, so yeah, I mean, when I saw that news this morning and checked the share price of Baba, I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm not surprised at the same time. I felt like, well, everybody was being fearful and all this bad news, bad press going on with Baba. I felt like now, I mean, it was worth it to me to take the gamble on it. I had a feeling that there'd be some sort of quick little rebound, something that China was going to do, and turned out, I mean, that worked in my favor, obviously, with Ma coming back. And then I started thinking, okay, well, if Ma comes back, what's to come next? I mean, that he's not coming back to China just to come back and help out with colleges and the schools there and talk about AI and where we're going with artificial intelligence into the future and stuff. I mean, there's a reason he was coming back, and it was to meet with high up people and obviously people with the CCP and talk about this new venture that they're going to take on. I don't know what that means for the stock specifically. I mean, I don't know if how that's gonna shake up in terms of like splitting Alibaba into six different companies. I don't really know what that means for the actual share price, but
Yeah,
It's no
so I
different
mean,
from when
just
other companies were broken up. Ma's gonna still own whatever percentage share of all the subsidiary, or I guess all the sister companies, but they'll trade independently and have independent management.
so Baba would remain.
No, the Baba ticker would split off. The last major split would probably have been like Bell, when it was split into AT&T and the other cellular companies or
God,
phone
that was a
companies.
long time ago. Yeah.
I agree, but I think that's the last major like government mandated split.
yeah,
So I mean,
maybe
what would that mean for the shares of these companies or the shares
You'll
of
receive
Baba?
shares. You'll receive shares of each entity proportionate to the shares that you held in Baba.
Okay.
So
Very nice.
the value of the cash value of your position shouldn't change.
Right. Okay.
There might be opportunity for arbitrage, but when it comes to like that, the part is correct. So kind of going back to somebody talking about Jack Ma coming back to America. You guys might want to get the WeChat app and actually follow Jack Ma because he's been actually trying to promote peace in Ukraine.
He
And might be
didn't come
going
back to
against.
America. He went
I
back to
mean,
China.
China. Sorry. He's been promoting peace in Ukraine, so it's against CCP's alignment. Just throwing out there. So follow some of the things that's been going on. But the split sounds like it was good news, but it also could be bad news for some other parts of the company. So just be mindful and don't go too YOLO.
Yeah, I don't know if I would buy in at this point. I mean, maybe. I mean, if you were just buying into shares long, but I mean, I opened this position, like I said, a little over a week ago. So, I mean, I picked them up. I picked these calls up when they were fairly dirt cheap comparatively to where they're
What are the
probably going to open up today.
what are the expiration dates on those calls?
June 13th, I believe.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is a lot of times.
June 16th.
Okay. And what you're seeing in the share price is a lot of the times when you do break companies up, it's worth a lot more broken up, even on paper. So they're not all that intrinsic value is in the normal share price. So I'm not saying you want to sell it now, but a lot of times it does bump on the news, and it could just, depending on how they do the breakup, as Hardy has pointed out, even when it's been non-governmental breakups, when it's just people saying, hey, we're going to sell whatever our healthcare or this part of the business like GE did. You get, sometimes it's proportional shares, but it's supposed to be equal to the total weight. How that works with your calls, I'm not sure. You may want to sell before it happens.
Yeah,
Take the money and
maybe
run.
sell the volatility.
Yeah,
Because there's your short, all options, your short puts, let's say, turn into short puts across all the other securities. So
yeah, I don't know
probably
how
better
that
to stand aside because it's unclear how the OCC will settle this.
All right. So I have a play whenever you guys are ready to move on.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm trying to figure out this shoe brand called Hoka. Anybody use Hoka? Because I'm very bullish on the company. Well, not the company, but the shoe. And then
What's the ticker? I think I might.
well, I'm trying to find the ticker for it. I think it's Deckers Outdoor Corporation, but I don't know how much of that is actually contributing to Deckers company. Like how much is the Hoka contributing to Deckers revenue? But they're selling out, and the prices are going up due to low supply. And it's a springtime where everybody's trying to lose weight, unless you want to buy Novo Nordisk calls, which is also up too. But kind of going back to Hoka, right now this is like the hot chic shoe to get, just like on a few months ago where everybody's buying those Cloud 9 or Cloud X or whatever they are. But right now everybody, like all the suburban moms has moved from Brooks to Hoka. But then again, I don't know how many suburban models are there to keep the market flowing, but the profit margin looks enormous, and it could be a pretty good type opportunity as the the warmer seasons are coming, and everybody needs to tone their rear ends for the beach.
Wait, so are you picking up calls or?
I'm looking at the option chain. I'm probably going to start looking at it after after a month is over because the quarterly expiration is going to cause some serious turbulence. But after that, I'm definitely looking into calls. I don't know if I'm going to do a traditional buy call or basically doing like a cover call, like a synthetic. So I'm pretty bullish on the running shoe kind of sector right now. Mostly because it's seasonal and also we're getting out of the pandemic finally. So people are going to take weight loss and fitness a little bit more seriously. At the very least, that's like the trend. Everybody's trying to look like a cancer patient or something.
If people were using the pandemic as an excuse not to maintain fitness, I don't think that they're going to go back to getting fit. I suspect they'll find another excuse. Oh,
Well,
the
of course, I'm not
economy is
gonna.
crashing. I can't
Well,
afford a gym membership.
hang on. You're right. Like we're not talking about people like fitness excuses, but they're still gonna buy the shoes and just leave it there, just like Pelotons. I mean, they're all just sitting there like collecting dust, but they bought it because they think like owning it will magically make them lose weight. I mean, this is like that that consumer fallacy. This is how marketing wins.
But how will Peloton continue to realize revenue for bikes that are already sold?
Well, no, I'm not talking about Pelotons now. I'm talking about Pelotons during the pandemic, where everybody has like that expectation, and that's why they bought into Pelotons. And now this is going to be like a similar kind of trend with exercise stuff like running shoes. They're going to think that by owning them, you're going to magically have the energy with a at that motivation level to go exercise. So this is like that similar psychological trend where people are going to try to buy into this because like, oh, we're going to own it because, well, one, it's also kind of like a popularity thing amongst like suburban moms. Um, I don't know if you guys check out the shoes that they wear. They're wearing a lot of them now in the
I mean,
gyms.
bearing in mind, gym memberships do statistically drop throughout the summer months.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would play into your thesis, but it might be something just to bear in mind with that.
Right. No. You guys are missing the point I'm trying to say. Like, remember the gym memberships pick up during New Year's, right?
Yes.
Yes, it does drop throughout the year. Same thing with running shoes. This is running season now. So it's gonna go up and then it's gonna drop. But right now we're looking at the upswing. Like during the pandemic, there's the Peloton craze. It went up. And then now there's like this massive sell off. So that's my thesis is you're gonna buy into the hype.
Thank you for bringing that up. I don't think anyone has a strong opinion either way. So, Hardy, what are you seeing? What are you doing this week?
So, in the wake of my banning from Reddit, I've been working on an alternate place to host my content. That's pretty much the bulk of what I've been up to. I've been short a lot of GameStop puts, short Google, or puts on Google because of Bard's mess ups. And what other plays have I been up to? And then I've also been bearish on Procter and Gamble PG in anticipation of them not winning the next contract.
Oh man, Hardy, I'm on the other side with Procter and Gamble.
I'm not
I'm actually
leaving the Delorax, I'm not leaving Reddit. I'm setting up a place where I can have the content archived at a minimum in the event that Reddit tries to cancel me again. Because I still have two more talks that I can start, but I also know that the moment I do, I might get the ban hammer. Sorry, what were you saying, Wyflow?
Oh yeah, I'm actually on the other side of Procter and Gamble. I've been accumulating shares since 140. And then also getting the ETF called XLP. Basically, those are the durable consumer goods. It's been moving in a very strange manner. In fact, a lot of these like boomer ass stocks are doing the same kind of trend. Um, I mean, the thesis for me is kind of I'm just trying to like take a step back as like somebody anticipating for potential inflation again, where you're gonna buy some durable goods at a slightly cheaper price, and then kind of just hold on to it. But I mean, that's basically my thesis. But I like Procter and Gamble for just holding on to it. But it's actually interesting that you were talking about bearish on Procter and Gamble.
Our time horizons may not be the same. Let's be clear. It's possible for both of us to be right.
That's true. I do have shares, so that's like a hold it till I die kind of thing.
How long were your Google puts for, Hardy?
April 21. I bought them Friday going into the weekend in anticipation of Bard making some colossal mistake.
I don't think I've seen anything to that effect, but I know the shares were down yesterday drastically. So
All right, if nobody's got anything right now, I got Tart astrology for y'all. We got a bit of downsies after the parallel star stream yesterday, so it looks like it's going to be a little bit bearish today. Not too much because it wasn't too far down. It was just like a little bit. So yeah, that's all for Tart astrology today. No actual Tart astrology plays. I've been looking at the options chain. Well, I got one, but it's extremely regarded. This is based off of some information that Scald gave me earlier today during the Confused Money chat. We're talking about Visa. The play is to long Visa and to short MasterCard, but my particular Tarstrology play is extremely short term. It's the 3-day to expiration calls, strike date of 245 or strike price of 245. It's at 221 right now. So this basically this long dated news would have to happen overnight in order for these calls to print. So this is extremely regarded. Don't do this unless you fucking appreciate the fucking Tart astrology. And it's supposed to be bearish today, so I'd be able to get in on these super well. And they're already basically worthless. They're 1 cent a piece. This has been your regarded Tartstrology play of the day. Does anyone else have any plays?
I'm thinking about YOLOing quarterly SPYs. I'm not quite sure when the best time to enter at the moment, but I'm expecting some pretty big movements either way. I'm just waiting for the algo flow. Well, not just the algo flow, but basically to see what the open interest leading up to this week is going to look like, and also the amount of dark pools that are being moved around. So stay tuned, I guess.
Does anybody have a Disney play? Recently they announced 7,000 job cuts.
That'll have been priced in. I'm more concerned about the Disney Plus subscription issue. So a lot of budgets being pulled away from Disney Plus to create new content, which means fewer content releases. Does that then mean reduced subscriptions or a declining user base in the Disney Plus service? So at least for me, this is flat to bearish on Disney.
But isn't Bob Iger also eliminating the metaverse division?
I don't think the metaverse for Disney ever got off the ground.
I'm looking at a report here. It's saying that it's eliminating the metaverse division in the first round of layoffs.
That may very well be true.
All right, let me try this now. You guys can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. So I was thinking about both the chemical spill in Ohio, the situation that's going on with not drinking water in Philadelphia, and the extreme weather that just happened in Mississippi. And this all kind of led me to the thought of bottled water. Obviously, Aquafina and Dasani, aka Pepsi and Coke, are the two largest bottled water things. So I was actually thinking about picking up some calls. I was looking at either 175 or 180 calls of April 28th for Pepsi.
I mean, I'm bullish on Pepsi. I have it in one of my portfolios. But I don't know if that alone would have an impact to the bottom line, though. I don't know if it'd be measurable.
I was thinking that about one instance, but multiple instances, and if so, I thought the same thing. So what I did was I started looking at their track history for hurricane season So like September, October, early November, and they trended up every single one of those. So I figured that this was at least equal to sales of like one hurricane season, considering the fact that it was multiple locations.
So here's a thought too. During the hurricane seasons is also college football season, NFL season, baseball, the World Series, the start of major sports. And I mean, I have Coca-Cola shares, so it has been going up. It was at 59 like a couple weeks ago, and now it's like 61-ish. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it doesn't sound like a terrible thesis, but we don't know what exactly is going to happen because right now with Philadelphia, yeah, they're gonna get bottled water. We're talking about like market cap of like $500 million worth of water.
And to Yflow's point too, with Pepsi, I think about a third of their income, maybe a little bit more, is from the snack division. So again, the chips and all of that for the sports season in the fall, and there may be more of a correlation with that, but not against the stock. I don't know if it's a quantifiable.
No. Thank you. That's why I bring it up for the feedback, because like that's the thought of it. It's just.
I mean, if you want to do water, I'm actually basically pretty close to the government side of water stuff. Um, like right now, this is basically how the breakdown is. Um, many people are putting in what they call basically filters. All right, these are filters or ANSI X1. I don't know what this ANSI is basically the certification for acceptable for consumption when they use like filters that can filter like certain particulates. Not the Brita filters because they're trash. But they're actually like made and certified by a professional standard. And those are one thing you could look into are just the filtration systems for the water, either reverse osmosis or those filters that has like the ANSI label on it. That's one, but it's not considered infrastructure spending, so it does not get government money. It's going to be privately funded for people with like their own money to buy. Now, if you want to look into like the actual treatment and the pipes, then you can look into infrastructure spending, which this is completely out of my wheelhouse, and that would be somebody else's discussion. But right now, the filtration might be a play to basically get to the consumption points.
Cool. Thank you.
Hardy, I had a question for you.
Shoot.
How is there any situations where you will just go straight calls on something, like not really hedge it, no, opposite side puts and all that, and just long the shit out of something, or do you pretty much always hedge your stuff?
In this environment, I pretty much always hedge any calls that I have, or they're very short term. My preferred, if I want to have open calls at some point in time, what I'll tend to do is I'll look for an event where IV is expanding, and I will buy strangles against that event, and with the hope that IV expansion is faster than theta decay, and then any movement of the price is a bonus. So let's use the most recent GameStop earnings as an example. When GameStop announced their earnings call, or the date of the earnings release, the IV of the, I think it was March 24 expiration, or whatever the Friday following the announcement, started going up. It took maybe 3 days to go up enough for the price of the puts in this case to double. So I sold the puts for a little bit more than 2.5 times their value, and then I had the calls remaining, and effectively going into the earnings report, my calls were free rolled, already paid for. So even if IV crushed, I'd have some residual value that I can take as profit. So that's the kind of circumstance where I would have an open call. Technically, it was hedged, but yeah.
Right, but you started out, with on both sides of it, and so that's just something I'm trying to learn to do. I'm like when I don't know if anybody else whether it's, better to try to hit it at the same strike price or spread the strike prices apart a little while, same expirations, etc. And just, I got some learning to do, but I was just curious.
I mean, that's actually the whole essence of YOLOing. When you YOLO like a zero DTE, you don't give a shit where it's gonna go. It's either gonna go to 1,000%, or it's gonna go to negative 100%. So, I mean, you can flip a coin on zero DTE and just let it ride until like 350 or something like that. Rest in peace, Dash.
Big ups.
I was just wondering if anybody had any plays for Occidental Petroleum, since Berkshire Hathaway seems to be buying more.
Oh yeah, I've been bearish on them since December. I called Warren Buffett the oldest backholder in history of the United States. Because currently, with the price, he's getting very close to his cost average of the shares he's currently buying. But he does have a lot of other instruments where I think he wants to take full control of the company eventually. So I don't know if he's going to deal at a premium or he's going to deal at a good price. But Occidental, I mean, I don't know what your expectation is for Occidental, but I don't like it.
Gone into a couple of days ago now is I have got puts on KRE, the regional bank ETF. I know everyone's probably going to think I'm stupid, but I know I've got a bit of a gut feeling that there's going to be a major inflection point where the arse might fall out of the market. But yeah, I thought.
Were they expensive with the IV?
No, they were quite cheap, to be honest. I think it was 30 or 40% IV at the time when I took them out. Obviously, it's an ETF, so it's quite high for an ETF, but they're not looking so hot at the moment. But at the same time, I didn't take a huge position. Took a relatively small one. I think I took just two contracts.
When did they expire? How far out?
Let me look. I remember off the top of my head. They expire April. So yeah, I've got the 40 puts in April. So what date?
No, and I think there could be still some
Yeah.
room. I mean, it was definitely a loaded question when I asked if anyone else was
Yes,
selling.
it's they're quite soon, so they're 6th of April. It was literally just I if I was to redo it again, I'd probably pick one a bit further out. But I just saw with all the volatility that's currently going on, and on the charts we are at a major. I know everyone doesn't really follow charts, but on the charts we are at a major kind of resistance support line where there's not really much precedent for if we sink below our current level. So yeah, it was just a really not really a very thought out play, slightly smooth brain, but could pay off if it goes off. But yeah, I wouldn't. If I was anyone, I wouldn't take a big position. Maybe just a little bit of, if you've got a bit of spare powder.
Well, and going in your favor, there's been a couple pieces of news in the last day that, the emergency funding or the loans that they can take increased again in the last week that the banks could take. And then also, one of the Fed governors came out and said essentially that the compliance people were yelling about bond interest rate risks in the fall, and no one listened to them as far back as like September and October. So I still think there could be more dominoes to fall personally, and I'm not in the financial space besides my constrained portfolio, but I'm not entering any new positions right now.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing as well. If one domino begins to fall, it will very much lead into kind of a bit of a catastrophe for the banking industry. I mean, we saw it the other day. One bank went under, and it dragged so many of the banks. I mean, what was Credit Suisse's? It wasn't even a large bank on the global scene, really, was it? But it still had huge impacts rippling throughout the banking industry, especially in America. So yeah, if one thing comes down, then expect a lot more volatility going forwards. That was just my idea.
Just out of curiosity, what does anybody think about the retracement on Bitcoin? I might do some puts on the Grayscale Ethereum.
Just to play devil's advocate on that, if we were to have any further issues with the bank, expect Bitcoin to act irrationally going forwards. Because although it's not really, in my eyes, it's not really a store of wealth, panic does seem to cause quite a lot of people to flock to it. So we are in a very volatile time at the moment.
Not
Yeah,
gold
and
or
I know with
silver.
the government suing coin, and the retracement the on the chart for Bitcoin, I was like I said, I was thinking about actually I was bearish about it, and I feel that we're gonna have a retracement. So
Like the Fibonacci. Is that what you're talking about?
I think he was just talking about the broader general sense of the retracement. I imagine.
yeah, I mean we're already under 27 right now, and I mean if you look at the chart for the 1 month, like it doesn't look good. It looks like it is could possibly drop.
Well, and I think
right,
the other news that came out after that, right, was that Binance is also being sued, and and it's over like U.S. customers using VPNs to try to evade the compliance controls. Which basically all of my friends did that. I did that. Everybody did that shit because Binance was the only way you could trade futures, and it was so much cheaper to trade than Coinbase.
I've heard enough. I'm gonna go buy some Bitcoin now. Thanks, boys.
Hey, Hardy, do you still have rig in play right now?
I exited my rig position.
Wasn't there a load of
Waiting for the
legislation
price.
passed
For
in
rig
relation to
specifically, I'm
staking?
waiting for the price to go back up to like the 650 range. That's where Gamma Max is right now. Or sorry, 710 range. That's where Gamma Max is right now. Once it gets there, I'll start looking at buying puts again.
You think it's gonna ever break 675?
It doesn't matter to me.
Good point. Historically, this is when like fuel price is gonna go up again due to anticipated travel. Spring break is going on, so like if you guys are bullish on travel and cruise lines and stuff like that, this is something that you could keep in mind on because travel season's up, spring break season's up, and let's see how broke or rich Americans are, I guess.
Yeah, and I was a shareholder in Rig a long time ago. I did used to day trade that a lot, even in the shares. But wanted to bring it up, but anyhow, we're talking about large. It was a way too large position in my portfolio, so I know a lot about the company. They aren't going to pull rigs up or take them offline just because of one spring break. They have recently, in the last few months, started to bring on a new rig, and it was the first time in years. But you don't really see that much of a correlation just with seasonal effects. You don't see people go, got to bring up 2 or 3 more rigs, if that makes sense.
Right, right. I mean, it because it's like part of XLE, so it's like very sensitive to the whole energy sector. So no, I agree with what you're saying. They're not gonna build a
No,
whole rig just for.
no, I agree with you. Yeah, there's definitely sector sympathy moves within it. So correct. It definitely has those swings, and that's why I love trading it, or I used to at least.
Yeah, the swings are ridiculous. Like literally, my cover calls are like deep red. I mean, I got my call spaces way up, but still, like I can't believe how deep red my cover calls are right now. Still.
I definitely think there's money to be made there. I don't know if it's going to get over that $7 for that game of max range for the fundamental reasons. It has recently though, actually.
I mean, here's the thing with like the geopolitics though, like the whole Saudi Aramco is like playing ball with China and Russia is kind of weird. But hey, whatever. We're just peasants here, right?
So another play you can make on travel that I've been kind of looking into is travel insurance. So specifically for like international travel, because a lot of the restrictions are being kind of removed or eliminated. So you can get travel insurance for your trip. Means more people are going to travel. The one company I was looking at is what I use particularly whenever I do my international travel. And it's called Allianz. It's a German insurance company. They do have an ADR in the tickers ALIZY. And so I looked into it a little bit, and it's not the majority, but it is a huge chunk of their revenue is actual travel insurance. So the only downside is there's no options on it, so you would have to be long shares.
Yeah, they sell travel insurance for like American Air, well, not just American Airlines, but basically all like airlines and stuff like that. So I mean, that's basically like the only fish in town. But you know, insurance is cheap, but just in case like
Yeah.
a plane crashes, you'll probably take a nosedive. No pun intended.
Well, I mean, they're not really that kind of travel insurance. It's more like, oh, something happens on your trip, you have some coverage, you get
Right, right.
like
AAA
emergency
and stuff
medical
like that.
coverage and that. So that's why I'm looking at it because I'm actually going to do a study abroad, and the trip part of that one I don't need. I just want the health insurance in case I need it, and it would only be like $38, so it's really not that bad.
If you have like American Express Platinum, something like that, you can actually get it for free.
Yeah, no, that travel insurance isn't worth anything. Getting
Yeah,
a claim
and
filed through that, Not worth it.
I've never bought it, and I hate to be the naysayer, but I'll play devil's advocate. Extended warranties, travel insurance, all that kind of stuff, they're taxing you, especially on like cars too. All that stuff, that's just pure premium usually.
Well, the last 2 times I got it was because I literally had to have it to enter said country. So
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a market for it. I'm just agreeing with Hardy. It's very pays out very little, and for them, it is kind of a cash cow. So that could be bullish for your thesis.
I mean, to add on top of that as well, with travel insurance, it's not necessarily what it does, but is the mental comfort that a lot of people purchase it for, and just purchase it. When people go on holiday, they don't really shop around. They'll just get travel insurance. They don't really care what it does. A lot of people, anyway, for the common person, they'll just literally go, oh, "Okay, I've got travel insurance. That's it." I mean, that's how it is with a lot of people I know. I don't know if it's the same in America, because I know your insurance is slightly different, your healthcare, etc. But over here, it's kind of get travel insurance is very cheap. Everyone just gets it for holidays.
So I have one last play. Chime in, especially negative. You probably have some interest in this. Lockheed Martin, they just won a $500 million deal for Trident 2 missiles. I actually have no idea how I'm going to play this, but I'm probably going to try to open up some shares or cover calls for shares just to.
Yeah, I actually talked about this one yesterday. The Pentagon put in for an increase of budget, and Lockheed Martin is the largest player for the hypersonic missiles. The hypersonic missile portion of the budget actually has a 40% increase, up to $9 billion. And I think the last Lockheed Martin contract that was won was 1.2 billion. So I think the other player with that that somebody else mentioned was Raytheon. So yeah, I think that's a good play in my opinion as well.
Just add some devil's advocate to that. I used to work for Lockheed Martin, and some of the contracts they take are loss leaders, so to say. Like they're going to lose money on those contracts. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, like they purposely intend to be in the red. So just because they won a contract doesn't mean they're going to make any money. It's not like a guaranteed
but their stock goes up when they win the contract, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm not necessarily looking at shares. I'm looking at call options.
I mean, that's actually good to know, but is it like a strategic move just to keep the U.S. government in business?
It's basically there are some contracts out there that are extremely lucrative, right? Like if you go on govplanet.com, you can look at every piece of equipment that the government is currently selling, and there's a sticker placed on every piece of equipment that shows the original purchase price for that piece of equipment. And it was like a week ago, I actually came across some Raytheon phase converter sticks. I'd never seen the shit like this before in my life. I have no idea what the hell it is that they did. They almost looked like lightsabers. And the government paid $8,000 per stick, and they were auctioning off 3,000 of them with a starting bid of $5,000. And I don't even know what the hell these things do. It was like 3,000 fucking lightsabers. But the point there is like, yeah, I mean, whatever that contract was, Raytheon made money to the moon on it, right? But Lockheed would often take shitty contracts to refurbish C-130s, P-3s, et cetera, to sell to ally countries like Israel, et cetera, at basic, and they would do it at a loss to then get in the favor of the government to get those ridiculous like 3,000 lightsaber contracts. So anyways, the smart money people probably know which contracts are going to be huge revenue and which ones are just bullshit that they took to try to stay in favor.
Hey, tell me a little bit more about these Raytheon lightsabers. Maybe I'll buy one just to show off to my friends and
Here, I'll see if I can find the link and post it in the chat.
Why don't you just buy him
one
for
more
the
thought
first
about
Wall Street Bets meetup, Cooper? We could have had a Wall Street Bet sword fight.
yes, a lightsaber battle.
One more thought about Lockheed Martin is I believe Finland was being ratified into NATO, and also Finland and the whole Nordic air alliance, I guess they would call it, where with the other Nordic countries. And Finland, I believe, just had an increase in purchase of Lockheed Martin F-35 jets as well too. So
they need to call that Air Force the Valkyries. Just saying.
No, I'm also no, it's good. Both are right. I'm also bullish on Raytheon. That was me. And I also like Northrop Grumman because they have the highest profit margins in the space, the most international and U.S. contracts. And to your point, it's all going to keep growing, adding shares, going long.
And they also sell those United States Postal Service white delivery trucks.
Who does?
Chart-wise, I really like Northrop Grumman.
Okay, so I just posted the link in the chat. Turns out nobody bid on them, and sorry, it was 362 of them, not 3,000. But nobody bid on them, so they will be relisted for sale if anybody would like to buy them. And they are actually called energy phase shifters, Raytheon energy phase shifters. So I think they might be used for time travel, is my best guess. So all the people that want to be able to time travel to make a shit ton of money on stocks probably buy these, and then you're good. You're good.
I'm gonna sell GameStop at $450.
Yeah, you're gonna have more calls on GameStop than Roaring Kitty did.
So just to be clear, phase shifters are used typically in radar installations. So that's probably like a series of replacement parts for some radar system that's no longer in use.
Damn it, Hardy! Why do you have to ruin my fucking dreams, dude?
You could probably still put a light stick on the end of it, call it a lightsaber. Make the noises yourself.
He just patted you on the head. He said, "It's okay."
No, wait a minute. Hardy's got a point. This is the way.
Interesting. So, anyone else have any other non-war related plays? I mean, I'm obviously a defense hawk, but anyone else?
Just invited Showtime up. You got anything for us?
What's everyone's viewpoint on silver?
You know, I was just about to bring up a gold silver just bag. Well, I'm not bag holding. I'm actually green on the position now. But it went up about 10% yesterday, so I was gonna bring up Goro. The ticker is GORO, Gold Resources. So they are a gold and silver miner. So yeah, I'd take a little chunky dividend at 4%, and the stock is really, really, really low right now. So I'd say that it's a value play, and Luce would say that I'm fucking wrong, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But go ahead and check it out if you're interested in gold. The ticker's GORO. It's really fucking cheap.
Yeah, I started focusing in on silver last month, and was picking up SLV, the Silver Trust. I got average buying on that in like the $20 range, and so I got about 10% of my portfolio in there, and I picked up a few long calls on silver too, expiring in 2025, just in case some I don't know some shit happens with these banks. But I think silver is not a bad place to stash some money away. I mean, with all the uncertainty, I don't think it's going to go to zero. I mean, I don't think it'll break below 15. I think you're pretty much in a position where, I mean, long run, silver's not going to ever go anywhere in terms of dropping below that $15 mark, is my opinion on it.
It was under 15 like 2 years ago.
Right.
So I mean, I agree with you. It is a hedge against uncertainty, and it goes in your alternatives basket. So just playing
But it
devil's advocate,
also
I've owned it
look at
before.
no.
I'm afraid
I
it's
hear
already
you.
had
And
its run, right? It may have already
so
had its run.
I don't think the run, like, if you look at full historical values, like full historical data on silver and how much it spikes at various times, I mean, I think it's got potential in the next maybe 10 within the next 10 years. I mean, it's a very long, obviously long term play that you'd be getting into, but I mean, I think it does have the potential to be spiking into the 120 range again, because it's done that a few times in the past where it's spiked to unprecedented levels. And I mean, it'd be a massive payday in the long run. I felt like I needed something to, I don't know, feel comfortable rather than just keeping cash in the bank. I wanted to have something that was gonna, I don't know, long term possibly accrue some value, and I just see that potential. I mean, it's definitely not a play I would say, oh yeah, go in on silver, buy short term calls. Like, it's not something like that. It's a boomer play.
Pardon my ignorance, but what is silver used for anymore? You don't see it like a lot on jewelry and stuff, and I mean, aren't most like electrical premium contacts made with gold and shit?
Yeah, I think. I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you specifically what. I mean, I know silver, obviously, still in jewelry. I mean, there's still tons of stuff that's made out of silver in terms of jewelry. I
So
mean, I'm looking
silver
at more from the currency standpoint, though.
silver is used pretty much anywhere there is a large need to dissipate heat. So this is almost exclusively in electronics. And then you can also silver is also heavily used in like mirrors and solar, and also for solder, things that attach stuff to cut to PCBs.
I think today, Signature Bank starts getting traded on OTC. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that um, does for my put contracts.
So to Hardy's point, and close out the silver thing too before we move on. I think it's an all right move. It sounds a little, not to get too personal, but if you're in your 20s, it sounds like it's a pretty large position. I'm not a huge fan of holding the ETF, but if you could maybe get some gold too, because I think gold usually has a little more juice in it if you are banking on uncertainty. And that's my last one.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not in my 20s. I just turned 30 this past year, so. But I mean, it's just for me. I mean, I'm on still, so I don't know. I'm gonna ride it a little bit and kind of see. I mean, if it does pull back, I may pay up a little more. But I think that $20 range is a fair price for silver at this point.
Then I would
Yeah,
hold it.
so
Go ahead, Cop.
so market open, and yeah, Signature Bank is trading on OTC, currently rising pretty damn fast at 60 cents. So my $70 share dropped to 60 cents, but at least I can fucking sell it now.
Speaking of Signature Bank, here's a little more conservative play. I don't know if anybody else has gone long on NYCB, New York Community Bank. they got to buy Signature's assets for $1, thanks to a deal brokered by the government. And Signature was their main competitor, not for crazy crypto stuff, but for multifamily lending and that type of thing in New York City. So they are just incredibly positioned now, and um, I would recommend going long on NYCB. I got in around $6 just holding the actual shares. It's got a high dividend. It's around $8.50, $9 now.
So funny, I have puts to sell that I had bought on Signature. I have 4 $50 puts and 2 $55 puts, and so I put them to sell at $54 and $49, which means anybody that bought them would still be able to green, but they're not selling right now. So
Just real quick, while we have a brief second, there was some news that came out while we've been on this talk. The Schiller index came out, the Case-Shiller price index. That was only up 3.8% in January, and that was down from 5.6 in December. So hopefully it keeps falling for all you apes out there that don't have homes. But just wanted to share that little info.
Please, side question. Hardy, is this your day-to-day voice, or do you reserve this voice solely for Wall Street Bets?
I'm not doing anything special when talking to Wall Street Bets, although I am more tired than normal, but that's mostly because of no erections, sleep habits.
I tell you what, man, I have this reoccurring dream where I'm standing in line at a coffee shop and I hear your voice off in the distance. One of these days, I feel like I'm going to accidentally come across you because I don't think I've ever heard anyone with a natural voice that sounds like that in real life.
If you're in New York, then yeah, you'll likely find me. I don't think it's the microphone. I'm using an $18 USB microphone, nothing particularly special.
No, you sound the same on multiple different microphones. It's just a very scholarly voice, should I say.
So my play that I just started yesterday, I took a new position in Ford. I bought 1,000 shares to start selling weekly covered calls. People are overpaying for fucking Ford calls, like even that expired quickly. So That's what I'm doing. I was trying to bring that up earlier, but I'm like in between work calls now, so I can't really extrapolate on it.
I fully support that decision. Ford is a trash company.
Agreed.
Out of curiosity, is Barbarian here? The front end expert? I had some questions about getting half on a double stood up properly. Or anyone who's familiar with platform engineering or DevOps.
You could always ask VM, but I'm pretty sure that's just you.
Front end is web development front end, young. So I'm trying to figure out how to increase or decrease the time it takes the data that I'm generating for the plays to sync over to half on a double. If you go to half on a double / chart, it shows the the same charting interface, and I'm trying to make it more usable or less unusable. Part of the trouble is because this is a static site, all the components and all the data needs to be made accessible in the same bucket, the same AWS bucket. So I'm trying to make it all work together and play nicely. I'm sure there are many things I'm doing that could be sped up, just not familiar with them. Oh. In terms of making the charting platform better for mobile, I admit it's quite finicky. I don't have a good answer. So if anyone is familiar with Plotly.js, I'm happy to implement whatever changes you recommend. The biggest one I'm trying to figure out for Plotly.js is how do I initially show the most recent 200 data points? And then you can zoom out if you want after the fact.
Is the source code on GitHub or something?
No, I have my own private repo.
If you can share that, I'm happy to take a look.
Yeah, let me zip the repo and you can.
I already have a question about a play from the Rickle Brain from about a week ago, that Teva Pharmaceuticals.
Ticker?
Are you rolling that one over, or
Ticker?
TEVA? Are you rolling the position, or are you still holding until expiration?
I'll probably hold this one to expiration. Let's see.
It looks like they have some news coming out. Hopefully, it happens before the expiration.
Well, we've got about 3 weeks to go. So
Yeah.
there's a chance. Worst case, I'll write it off. I almost never roll a contract or a play over. I'll either accept the win or take the loss.
I doubled down and averaged down just to since there was enough time left maybe for it, and it's dropped quite a bit, so we'll see what happens. Cool, thanks.
Failed again. Morning, Skull. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning. Doing pretty good. Why is everyone so quiet?
Tech support for Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on a conference call for work, so it's fucked.
I'm thinking about opening a CD ladder, but no one cares about that. So.
CD ladder would be useful, but only if you do it like more or less 80% of your monthly expenses.
And that's what I'm doing.
Something
I just
along those lines.
Yeah, not to overshare, but I just got that settlement finally, so my lawsuit is done. Thank God. So yeah, I got a little extra cash.
You should talk to Titty, actually, because he was
Zero
literally...
TD. YOLO, do it.
Oh, yeah, do it. No. Titty was just building out a CD ladder last night. He was working on it, so you two should... there should be a meeting of the minds there between you and Titty.
I love that. Yeah, I'm thinking about even doing maybe a little bit of treasuries, but I just know for liquidity reasons and just not having to go to Treasury Direct, it's easier just get a CD with the current rates.
Oh yeah, I mean they're nuts. They're up there. Oh my God. 37 new messages on LinkedIn. I don't know why I did this to myself.
What did you do?
I was like, I want to start using LinkedIn as much as I use Reddit. So for every hour I spend on Reddit, I want to spend an hour on LinkedIn. And my reward is I log in and I get 37 LinkedIn messages. Jesus Christ.
All right, guys. I'm gonna get going because I'm gonna go try to figure out the signature put contract thing with my broker because it looks like I got a lot of money and I got to figure that out.
Well, that's
Good
a good
luck,
problem
bro.
to have.
Congrats on the tendies.
Thank you. I'll come back and report to everyone else so this way if anybody else has signature contracts and let you know what I came up with.
Yeah, we'll bill you the 3% when you get back. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
Because we like you. You know, it's not the normal 5, so it's cool.
I appreciate that.
It was funny. I heard somebody mention they were building a CD ladder. I just invested like 424,000 and I think it said it was going to make about 14,000 a year, just in interest.
Very nice, very nice.
And did they try to sell you an annuity? I don't know your age, but half the time they don't know your age either.
No, I did it through Fidelity. Unfortunately, it's not my money. I wish it was. I'd be playing a lot more options if that was the case.
No, I get that, but yeah, I've talked about the pitfalls of annuities, and if you have a lot of cash and your bank starts asking about it and you're in your 20s, tell them to pound sand. They will though.
They tried to re-enroll my grandmother in an annuity, and they were like, "Oh, you shouldn't cash out your annuity in all these stocks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And she was like, "I think I want to do that." And I was like, "You should do that, Grandma. You should cash out." And she did. And the year was 2007, at the very beginning, right before everything went tits up.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome because
Little did I know.
yeah, A, she didn't lose her money. B, she's
Right.
not ripped off on the fees.
Well, also, like, it made me suspicious because they were pushing an annuity, and I'm like, she's already 65. You wouldn't push an annuity to a 65-year-old.
Oh, they'll do it.
Commissions are so fat.
Well, yeah, that's
exactly. They get paid 9% on Pacific Life's variable annuity. 9% commission.
I know, it's just repugnant. Whereas the nice thing about crypto is I just say, "Hey, this is crypto." And people are like, "Oh my God, I lost money." And I'm like, "Yep, welcome to crypto." I don't have to feel bad about it. It's not like I made money. People just lose money. Welcome to crypto.
Counter offer, I definitely made money.
No, they definitely didn't try to push an annuity, but person whose money I invested already has one. He's in his 80s right now, and I think he gets like a monthly payment, I think of like $177 or something for a lifetime.
Yeah, I was going to say the annuity should be paying him by that point. Should have started a long time ago. And that's what they wanted her to re-up the annuity of paying into the annuity. And I'm like, no. Like the annuity is going to start paying out to you. Like, because she already had an annuity. She had it for years. But she also was a postmaster for the United States Postal Service. So she was able to buy government bonds at a discount. And she had done that every week that she had worked there for all 41 years that she worked at the post office.
Plus her pension, because that's back when the pension was still decent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are use for annuities. I don't want to completely shit on them, but they're usually not sold under the correct pretense.
Right. All I know about it is what I've heard about it is you walk in a millionaire and you walk out making monthly payments. That's what I've heard about annuities. You know, what do I know?
But I like the idea of saving, whether it is CD ladder or just a money market account. And I said this the other day on chat and again got completely railed and called a boomer. But if you guys don't have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund for all your expenses, you are doing a disservice to yourself because you're going to have to sell sometimes under duress, sometimes at a loss, sometimes with tax issues if you put it into a IRA or taking out of your 401k. So please fatten up your cash.
No cash, but I have enough in a Roth IRA. If I need cash, I can just take out my principal and I don't pay taxes on it. So hoarding cash is not always a good answer.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly. Go ahead, Skull.
Well, you have access to an alternative source of liquidity that doesn't cause you to take a tax bill, right? So, I mean, that's a little different. But for your average person, you should have a little pile of cash.
But over the long run, taking it out of an investment is going to lose that compounding interest. So cash is having an emergency fund is just really good common sense.
This is why I said like the best investment I ever made was buying my house, because I bought it outright. And having it, firstly, it appreciated in value. Being a house, it went up in value. But secondly, the change to my cash flow of not having to pay a mortgage, and I have to pay like homeowners insurance and I have to pay property taxes, but getting rid of this big expense of a mortgage or rent improved my cash flow to the point where I could just start YOLOing on dumb shit like 24/7. And
I mean, yeah, let me just find that 500 grand to pay off my mortgage, and I guess I'll be in the same boat.
dope, dude. Like I did it when I sold my business, but like everybody does their own thing. But like
And back to having to liquidate from an IRA or any investment account, what do you have to do it under duress to pay for a bill and the markets are shit and you're down 20%? Again, if you have cash, you don't have to attack that principal and lose, as Avid pointed out also, that time value of money. Oh my Lord. So please, you don't have to have 6 months, and it doesn't have to necessarily be in cash. It can be another low risk investment if you have to use it in the next 3 to 6 months.
My Roth IRA is like the lowest risk you can possibly find. So I don't really have any concerns. Like there's no tax implications of taking money out of it.
Correct. I didn't say tax. I said loss of investment principal or potentially taking a loss. It's the wrong vehicle for short term. This is all I'm saying. Just try to rethink about it. I've heard this before. I don't like this plan, or I don't like people using IRAs. Hold on. Using their IRAs for their kids' college funding. Like, I hate that idea too. And I would shoot that out of the sky with all my agents.
Remember, you heard Scald say it here. Pay off your house so you can YOLO on dumb shit.
Oh yeah, brother.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. So that's probably all both of us. But anyhow.
I just want to say that using your Roth money is a terrible idea. You should leave money in that account forever.
If I'm in a pinch and if I'm in a pinch and I need it, I'm just saying I can withdraw it, the principal, and not have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah,
obviously.
we understand the mechanics of it, but and one thing you said too that I just want to latch on to: if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're in your Roth and you have a low risk tolerance, that's also probably not the right end of the spectrum too. I'm not saying YOLOs, but you should probably be in some more growth too. So I'm hearing a lot of disjointed management with my experience.
In that Roth, you have money that's permanently taxed. You never pay taxes on it. It's like the most valuable money you have.
I have an individual portfolio that is much more, my risk tolerance is much different from that. The Roth is probably 70% in REITs.
If you're in a liquidity crisis, or actually being proactive instead of reactive, anticipating at some point that there could be a liquidity crisis scenario, and having a home equity line of credit that you do not tap and that you only pay interest as you use it is an ability to have short-term liquidity without uh, subjecting long-term um, losses on compounding interest through your Roth.
I mean, you're already losing it if you have a HELOC that you're not doing anything with. Like, you're already losing out the potential gain on that just by sitting on the cash. So it really depends, goes back to like where your risk tolerance is. I'm perfectly happy not sitting on any more than $2,000 in my checking account. And I know if a pinch comes and I need to take money out, I have multiple different places I can take it out of. I'd rather do that than just sit on cash. But everybody's different.
Hey, so someone just said Sam Bankman-Fried has been charged. To which I responded with the slowpoke meme because I thought he had been charged months ago.
Yeah, I thought he was already charged, and they already have grand jury.
I don't know. Is there more charges that just broke?
Something actually here. He paid $40 billion to a Chinese official in a bribe. It's 40 million, excuse me, to a Chinese official. So it's a new indictment. So yeah, that's the third update to his indictments.
Dude, I want to be a Chinese official. Pay me $40 million. What the hell?
Sorry to jump all over you, Showtime. I just think you have a lot of people in here that look at the time value of money, just see it, want to give a different perspective. So it is your money, and as Hardy says, your crowns. You can eat your crowns how you like. They take different, so you're allowed to do whatever you want. So sorry not to bandwagon you there, buddy.
No, I get it, man. Like, I mean, everybody's different. Like, my sister tells me the same bullshit. Like, she's got like 12 or 20,000 that she just won't invest. But hey, like I said, everybody's different. My risk tolerance and my what like the chances that I need some excessive amount of cash compared to what I think I can do with that cash in the meantime is just I don't see the upside doing the way I'm not doing, but it's fine.
So I'm just gonna say this. I thought that same thing like after I left the Navy, and then I ended up having some family problems, and I had to pull money from there because I didn't have like cash liquid to use
Yeah,
it.
that's
And looking
that's fine.
back
I
on
mean,
that, I still I regret that because it's tax-free money. That was I can never really get that back.
And again,
no, I get it.
and it's not like you have to have it all at once.
I just rather take risk and take negative arbitrage on my margin account and cold cash and pay 2% or whatever the spread is than put myself in a position where I don't have cash.
Different crayons, see?
Yeah, and I also don't have a family that I have to worry about paying like something for. Like, it's just me, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have kids or a wife. My girlfriend's she makes more money than I do. So
Our girlfriend.
hell yeah, brother.
Our girlfriend.
She's ours now.
Remember, that's why you always bet with your girlfriend's husband's cash.
Well, that's usually what causes the liquidity crisis in the first place.
All right.
Well, most marriages I've heard, they tend to stick together when the wife makes more.
Dude, my wife and I almost eloped in Vegas, and then we realized like last minute we were like, this is probably not a good idea. So she had just sold her business, and I had sold my business like a year before. So we're like, we actually should probably have our lawyers go over our assets. And then it turns out after like a review of everything, we had almost the same amount of money. We should have just eloped. It didn't matter. It was like, wait, there's no purpose.
Prenups are good.
Right, but it was like there wasn't really yes, but they are normally very good.
I mean, it is on subject.
Yeah.
Do you need prenups or you're broke?
Bro, she owned a strip club. What a baller business to own. Anyway.
I have so many questions for you, but anyhow, we keep talking about not.
I'm over here like, I have a cybersecurity business, and she's like, I own a strip club, and I'm like, oh my god. Anyway,
Lots of lucrative businesses, all raking in the dollars.
And it's a cash business, you know? It's one of those things.
My neighbors own clubs, and I'll just leave it at that.
If you've ever had the state come after you for $11 in sales tax on a business transaction for 3 consecutive years, you appreciate what the heck a cash business can do for you. Because my God, fucking state sales tax and everything else.
Tax free if you don't report it. Yeah.
And now Rita, but I don't think you and I have to worry about that.
Rita, yeah, that was Rita. Yeah, we'll just call that a tax advantage strategy using cash.
Location. And none of that stupid ban on magazine size. But anyhow. Scald's like, what? You know
way to generate cash and turn money into tax-free money. The best way you can do that, my friends, is to open a restaurant as a sole proprietor. You'd be amazed how many personal expenses can be justified as a restaurant expense.
Oh, really?
Yep. Everything from linens to soaps and cleaning stuff to food to transportation to entertaining. You can expense fucking anything as a restaurant.
Are you talking about a tax write-off then?
I'm talking about a tax write-off, and I'm talking about how incredibly easy it is to move money around because you have a third stream in tips that need to be paid, and you get to decide who gets paid out by tips.
Real quick before we go too far. Hold on, Avid. Hendrix, you're in Canada, right? Not to stop. Yeah, so that may be a little different before you say anything, Avid.
Actually, they're incredibly strict over here. They nail entire companies and individuals for tax evasion through tips, but it's all about how you set it up as the business, right? On who gets what. So if you pay your staff a living wage and only a percentage of tips, the restaurants gets to use the rest of those tips, right?
Oh my
as its
God!
own
Did
income,
somebody just
and then that can be paid
unironically say
out.
living wage?
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about
Hendrix
a tax
actually pays people like what they're worth, which is nice of Hendrix.
when you talk about having a business and you're talking about a tax write-off, when I had restaurants and I owned the building that the restaurant was in, and I charged an exorbitant amount of rent to that restaurant, I was able to take a tax deduction of that rent against the other income from the real estate side of my business. But from just the restaurant side, it makes no sense to try to get as many write-offs as you can in any business. Why would you spend $1 to save 40 cents?
Because you have to spend the dollar anyways when you're running a restaurant. You have money going in and out all day, every day. It's a business that is constantly spending, constantly generating lots of small transactions.
Right,
So
but you want to keep the number of dollars that you're spending absolutely down. You don't want to raise those just for the benefit to have a write-off.
I think what he's saying is that the headache is bigger than the benefits it provides.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, you have to live your life anyway. So you have to buy your own groceries. You have to buy your own cleaning stuff. You have to buy your own laundry detergent. You have to do this stuff regardless, right? Having a restaurant allows you to turn all of that into an expense. So all of your personal stuff turns into a business expense because you can just turn in those receipts, and it's definitely like it's Doritos, it's food.
But it makes no sense if the restaurant's not profitable.
You want to profit? I don't want to
making money to get the tax write-off.
What was that book?
Every single year.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what you're talking about is just illegal tax fucking write-offs on an LLC, which you could do with any LLC.
But
yeah, there was actually a book published about this that was like, turn your family into an LLC and then write everything off. And if and like it became a New York Times.
You need other income to write it off against.
You do, but like it became a New York Times bestseller, and I'm trying to remember if Showtime or any of the other actual accountants in here would like to remember.
Well, I mean,
tell me the name of this book. It's pretty good.
You actually don't need income to write it off against. You could have a company that's pre-revenue and just say that you're building prototypes and shit. And I mean, I have friends that used to like
for 3 years before
right. I mean, you're gonna get you're gonna get busted eventually. I mean, I've got friends that like race motorcycles, right, as a hobby, and technically you can make money if you win the race, right? So they started writing off their bikes and all their fucking shit as an expense because they're trying to make money, but they suck, so they never won the race.
Well, you wouldn't have to pay taxes against that write-off anyway. That's what I don't understand. You're writing it off against what income? You don't.
Usually, you don't want to do that. That's a huge red flag. And
yeah, all this is terrible advice. Like, if you can't tell that we're trolling, this is actually trolling. Unless you're Hendrix, in which case he's a special case. But for most of you, if you can't tell that we're joking, like, please, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
one of the things that you can do, and a lot of people are probably in this situation in this forum, is that if you have a home and you have a home office, you can get a good tax deduction for your home office as a space that you use. That's a good one because you can write that off against whatever income that you have for your home business or if you work from home. But when people talk about tax write-offs, a lot of people don't understand the basis of why would I spend $1 in business cost, pay 40 cents in taxes.
Here's the whole thing. I'm. You guys are right. It's terrible advice for literally any other kind of business, but restaurants specifically is what I'm saying is because you have tips. So you have a 15 to 30% of the money that's being deposited on a daily basis has to be allocated to someone's income, right? So if you pay your servers a living wage and you have them agree, then that becomes the restaurant's income, right? And it's very difficult to track because some of that is cash and some of that is and doesn't need to be booked, and some of that is debit and it does need to be booked. So there's variance in there that you get to use and you get to play in a totally legal way in how you manage your restaurant's total revenue at the end of the week and where it all goes. And then you get to expense certain things, right? So it's not a matter of tax evasion, it's tax reduction. It's about taking how much this block of money that came in as tips, where am I going to put it? How am I going to use it so that it costs me the least to bring it into my business from outside of my business as revenue.
So are you making a restaurant so you can like get the tax write-offs, or are you making a restaurant as a business? Because the
No,
two are different. If it's not bringing in enough money, it won't work.
I'm making a restaurant because I spent my formative years learning how to do nothing other than cook. And so now I'm 40 years old and it's literally all I know how to do. So I own a restaurant. That's my business, right? And over the years, I figured out because I have a very small staff, right? So I have one guy who doesn't really want to pay income tax. So we worked out a deal where instead of him absorbing X amount of tips, which he doesn't really know, and it fluctuates, right? At the end of the year, he makes a lot of money, he doesn't make a lot of money, whatever the case may be, right? I pay him a living wage instead. So he has a consistent income, right? And then at the end of the year, we look at the total amount of tips and we figure out how we're going to do our taxes. So if he stays in his certain tax bracket, I absorb the rest and we split the tax penalties. I guess the penalty would be what you'd call it, whatever it costs. We work out a deal, right? My accountant does all the number crunching, and I'm sure it's very different in the States, but it's worked out year over year to be very beneficial.
Hendrix, I think you're okay. And one of the reasons I said that you're Canadian is because I am not an accountant, but I have complex accounting. I did do it in years past, but I had literally over 300 pages of K1s, which is a pain in the ass. So,
So what you're saying there, though, is that you're at the end of the year, you're paying part of his income tax because he got the tips, not you, right?
No, what I'm saying is he's paying part of the business's income tax because the business took the tips and he avoided the higher tax bracket. So it costs him less. And in the meantime, he's taking home like the lion's share of the tips. But I get to use
his income that now was filed as the business's income. That you're paying
given the platform, I'm avoiding it. So let's say you had a restaurant in Minecraft, right? Like purely hypothetical, right? Where people were offering to pay you cash at the beginning for the savings on the tax. Is purely hypothetical because it's illegal to do so and it's called embezzlement. But if you had customers that were willing to pay you cash and wanted to take the discount on the tax as a result, you'd need to find a way to bring that cash into the business. So you leave the tips floating, right? As in they're not booked in any particular way, and they come in blocks. And so you realize at the end of the week, okay, let's say the hypothetical restaurant took in $5,000 in cash that hasn't been booked yet, and there's no tax on it yet. You need to figure out a way to bring that into the restaurant that isn't embezzlement. So what you do is you expense it, you pay the server cash, and then you go out and buy stuff with that cash and bring the receipts in and say that it was the restaurant using tips. And then the restaurant pays income tax on those tips, and you get the tax write-off.
He got the cash. He got the tips in the form of wages.
He's getting a wage, a weekly wage that is booked, right?
Which is part of those tips, right? Whether you give it to him out of one pot, it's still the revenue stream, the income is off of the tips themselves. Just figure you're putting it.
Getting payroll straight out of the business, and he's getting tips. Hypothetically, he's getting tips under the table, but when he claims his taxes, he's not getting those tips. Capiche? So he's making significantly more money.
Capiche. No, I get it, but you're paying the income tax on that.
On only what I need to bring into the business, on only so that I'm not embezzling cash. So when I get paid cash, I buy stuff with it, I bring it in, and the total gets booked as tips that were paid to the restaurant. And then the restaurant pays income tax on that.
But you're getting the write-off of the stuff that you bought at 40 cents on the dollar.
Well,
it's not one-to-one. A write-off is not. If you spend $1, you don't pay $1 less in taxes. Not how it works.
I'm gonna interject right here. Can we both just say you're both fucking very smart and correct, and I love you both, and move on to some plays maybe.
Hugs everyone. All right.
Let's talk about plays.
I'll talk about dumb degenerate shit. I'm still adding ACHR calls with no hedge against it. Out to 2024. I'm adding EVTL calls out to 2025. Ion Q calls out to 2025. Stellantis calls out to 2025. STLA. And my Schwab April 21st 65 calls are just keep fucking going down. They're effectively fucking worthless at this point, and I'm just going to end up with probably 500 of them when they expire worthless. But never know. Schwab could just make an amazing comeback.
Okay, I've got one that hasn't been mentioned. It is the country of China also has a Robin Hood design trading platform, and it's called, the ticker symbol is FUTU. The thing about this one is until recently you couldn't buy it on Hong Kong Exchange, but as of about 5 days ago, you could. Thus, the run up. There was unfulfilled demand, I suppose. Playing that one, just bought long short. FUTU.
I love any ticker that starts with FU. I was really hoping it was FUPU, FUPU. That would have been a fantastic fucking name, but I'll buy some of this FUTU. Seems interesting. They recorded total revenue for the fourth quarter up 42.3%. And they're doing something.
Yeah, that's correct. They do have earnings on their side.
I normally never trade Chinese futures because, well, it's China. I normally don't trade anything in China, securities or anything. But I'm looking at these guys. They are pretty attractive. So, man, what do we think about banking, guys? What anybody got any banking plays? Wall, First Republic. Anybody still playing around in these guys, or have we left our banking toys behind and moved on? Silvergate said someone in the comments.
Calls and Wells Fargo for shits and giggles. $40.
When I had Silvergate profits, I took it. That is a complicated situation, which I am not going to be able to figure out. I'd prefer I took it.
We had someone who sold FRC shares yesterday after taking 27% profits. We have BAC $29 calls expiring 421. Ooh, bold. FRC is boring now, says someone. Silvergate's up 10% today. And First Citizens Bank up another 5% today after jumping 50% yesterday to $944.60 a share.
Are you fucking shitting me? They went up 50%. You're telling me my shithole bank that I've been banking with since I was 16, they suck ass, just went up 50% yesterday? What the fuck?
The reason they suck so much is because they don't care about you and they only care about onboarding dangerous FDIC clients. So they're managing their balance sheet like a fortress, and they've been doing it every day since 2009, and they're just constantly taking on FDIC. Like whenever a bank collapses, First Citizens Bank is like the first in line to buy their assets. It's nuts. So
I added positions to Truist yesterday. They've been lagging in the decline and the V-shaped or what is might end up W-shaped recovery. So ticker TFC, Truist Financial, even though we had a discussion about auto loans, subprime auto loans on their books. I'm long 150 shares on Truist Financial.
Yeah, but what? Like, I'm still like, my mind is full of so much fuck right now. What? How? Why is First Citizens the only bank that's made an absolute recovery and then some? Because they just took over some fucking ass. What?
not only did they take over the assets, they only took over like 110 billion of the assets. 90 billion of the assets the FDIC is keeping. So basically the way this works is they said, "Hey, we're only going to take the good stuff." And then FDIC is like, "Okay, we'll take the garbage." And so not only did they get the good assets, they got a lot of them.
Yeah, but in what world does that take this boring ass conservative, doesn't do a fucking useful thing bank above its like 2-year high and then some? Like, what?
That's exactly why they're the first bank in line for this kind of stuff, because they're boring ass conservative.
Are
bank.
you saying First Republic is above its 2-year high?
First Citizens.
Sorry.
We're talking about my stupid fucking local bank that was like where I grew up.
Sorry,
And
FRC. My bad.
no, dude, no. This fucking bank is like the most boring ass old money conservative fucking, like, if they'll give you a credit card, it'll have 40% interest rate and like a $500 limit on it. That's the majority of their credit cards.
I was thinking FRC. What's the ticker of your bank that you're talking about?
It's
FCNCA.
Yeah. I was looking at it yesterday morning when I saw the news, because I'm still banking there. So I saw the news that they were taking over the shit, and it was like 500-600 a share or something like that. And when he just said it went up 50%, I thought he was fucking with me. I thought I was getting punked. Like, I was like, where the fuck is Ashton Kutcher? No, it actually did it. It fucking did it.
It actually did. It really happened. So another bank I'm looking at that did not recover is called Savonis Financial. The stock ticker is SNV, and my God, their balance sheet is a dumpster fire. Like, it's an absolute dumpster fire. And I think they want it to be a dumpster fire. They're like, we're the bank for poor people or something like that. I don't really understand like how this is a strategy in banking, because as far as I understand how banking works, that's not how you make money. But that's what they do. And yeah, they, unlike all the other banks that bounced back a little bit, These guys have not. They're headquartered out of Columbus, Georgia. They were at around $40, like around 40, $42 before the banking crash and like mini crash there. They crashed down all the way to 28, and they've only recovered back up to $30.45. So I don't know if they're going to recover at all. And do they make money off payday lending, says Zima? As far as I understand it, they do make some money off of that kind of thing, and they do make some money off of that. What is it, like the rent-a-center type buy here, pay here stuff? So I don't really. I mean, maybe they're making money there, but generally
I
speaking,
agree with you. No, I agree with you. That stuff's the shit. The shit that we've talked about, like what's going to fall, right? That's it, because you don't need to actually have your credit pulled to finance with them. They can attack your credit 12 months later, but they don't need to look at it. So this is where the excess spending's been.
yeah. So I'm kind of just looking at these guys, and I'm like, they're not reacting like the other banking stocks, so I'm watching them very closely. I honestly haven't decided which way to play it yet, if I'm bearish or bullish, because it could just go up in smoke, right? I mean,
Can I ask you something? What does their price to book ratio look like? Is it over 1? And the reason I'm asking is that most banks tend to have a price to book ratio when they are healthy just below 1, like real close, like in the 0.9 to 1.1 ratio.
1.39.
That's probably why they're not going to go down anymore, or up for that matter.
They're just going to hang out there, you think?
Well, because I mean, because of regulatory requirements, most banks trade right around their book value.
I mean, fair. These guys only have 45 billion. Only these guys have 45 billion in assets, so they're considered a small bank for the purposes of like regulation and auditing and stress testing. So that's fair. So you think it's just going to move sideways?
Yeah, I think maybe they were trading too high wherever they were before. And so now all the banks are kind of readjusting to, what would be considered a reasonable price. So you might see some go way up, you might see some go way down, but they should be staying really close to that 1-to-1 ratio, or, within like 2 standard deviations of it. Like it should be somewhere real close.
Maybe a short strangle on it? Something? I don't know. Interesting.
I smell a lot of risk, right?
Yeah.
No, but this is good. This is what we should put this into, not just that capitalism is doomed, right? Let's make some plays.
Even if it's doomed, I don't see how that affects the stock market. Stock and company has been traded for thousands of years, well before capitalism ever existed.
You're a big researcher, Scott. You reinvent your mind to yourself for a couple hours. There's more activity in shorting the Russell 2000 index. Quite a bit of bearish options. I have that play, but it has not panned out so far.
I hear you, Georgia. Well, guys, I got a 10:30 meeting. I got to run. I'll see you all later. Someone in the comments said, "What about Micron earnings?" Here's what I think. I think that Jim Cramer just came out bullish on Micron, so you know you're about ready to get wrecked. Anyway, that's final thoughts. I'll see you all later.
SBNY OTC shares are 17 cents. So I just picked up a couple thousand of them because, why the fuck not?
What's up, you regards? Hello, anybody home?
Yo, 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 yo.
Hey,
What do you want?
get. Okay, are we are we able to trade OTC on Webull? Can you trade OTC on Webull?
Press 9 for technical support.
Hey, yo, that was a good one.
I have no idea. Sorry, buddy. I would tell you.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it.
Please listen to all the options carefully as our menu has recently changed. Please select 3 for remote blowjobs.
Holy shit. Yeah, motherfucker's dumb. Oh shit.
So I have a play. If you guys can put up with it for a second.
Sure.
Over the last couple of weeks, I've talked about the exposure for the regional banks and the small business debt bubble, and the CLOs that are leveraging that 50% of small business debt. Does anybody remember that line of thesis so I don't have to explain it again?
Very much so. It's burned into my retina. I'm expecting the whole business sector to collapse.
Well, or have absolute pressure. So the small business debt, as you know, I explained, was an issue like a common small business loan in 2023. It was a shitty adjustable rate mortgage in 2008. And when those bonds, those CDOs, imploded because of the leverage that they did in 2008, that not only did the holder of those bonds hurt, the i.e. Lehman's and Bears, but also AIG got it snapped off in their backs. So where I left it and started doing my research over the weekend was, who's the insurance company that is insuring the CLOs bundled with a bunch of small business debt that is going to be subjected to resetting with higher interest rates. And I found that company that is the most exposed. The company's Athene Holding Ltd. The ticker is ATH. And They're the ones that are the highest insurers of all business debt CLOs. There's a Seeking Alpha as well that they have amassed 158 billion collateralized loan obligations in their portfolio, about a quarter of the U.S. market for CLOs. This was written in 2020. These people knew that it was a potential problem prior to the banking crisis, and they, looking at their balance sheet, they can't get out of these easily. So I'm looking to play a short on ATH. It's defunct. It's delisted. As of December 29th, 2021, they were delisted. Hit a brick wall. So who has the assets of ATH? They are merging with Apollo. It's pending a merger with Apollo. Ticker symbol APO, Apollo Global Management, is who is acquiring that company, Athene, now being merged with APO, Apollo Global Management. They are down 6.15 year to date. That seems to be the company most exposed to the risk of a small business debt bubble.
What was the full name of Athena?
The full name of Athene, did you say?
Yeah, what's the full name of that business?
It was or is Athene Holding Ltd. ATHENE Holding Ltd. Ticker ATH. Is now being acquired by APO Apollo.
Yeah, is Hardy still here? Fuck.
It's an interesting thesis. I mean, it's a little hard to find information on these companies, though.
So I just got feedback from an assignment I did in my investing class, and part of the assignment is we had to do some research on Netflix and Disney, and apparently my take on Netflix was very different than what the analyst said, and it was so persuasive that my instructor was like, I really don't know how I feel about this now.
That's because you're learning in the real classroom. WallStreetBets.
Well, because a lot of his stuff that he had for it was like very bullish on the company and that. I'm like, yeah, but like they're kind of in a rut because they actually started losing subscribers, and they now have a lot more competition. And he's like, yeah, you got a valid point here.
It looks like in 2017, Athena had an IPO, and that IPO was led 22 quality investment banks: Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, all used Athena to insure their CLOs. Basically, Athena, which is now APO, is the AIG of the 2008 insurer of the CDOs of those mortgage-backed securities.
Hey man, so do you have a projected timeline when all this shit's supposed to start going down?
Well, I thought start to go down with SVB and then jump to the regionals, and now we're seeing a V-shaped recovery in the banking sector. So will it be a W-shaped recovery, or so my thesis is based off of when the small business bank interest rates on average will reset. When that happens would be determined on how much small banking debt currently is and what's the average day before it resets. And the gentleman had given me some information that I went over the weekend regarding SEC filings and how those companies, basically move assets on their balance sheet. I dove into that all weekend long and couldn't figure out the correlation between that and the average day before new interest rates hit the small businesses. So, that's a long answer to a short question, but it's got to be the average commercial debt balloons every 5 years. So absolutely within 60 months. And if we take the last 2 years of rising interest rates, exacerbated rising interest rates, we can take 2 years off that. So 36 months. I would actually say one other thing. Notice how the small banking sector or the regional banks have asked the FDIC to do 100% backstop to the depositors and asked it to happen over 24 months. So I would venture to say it could be in that 24 months. But timing that is like blurry trying to time the market on shorting the CDOs. And
No, I got you.
2008.
No, man. I like the thesis. I really do. Like the overall. I think it's genius. Yeah.
So I would make a play that would have a tremendous upside, but obviously the least amount of a low side risk. And I'm above my pay grade on that, man.
So if you could, okay, money aside, how would you play Apollo?
How would I play what? I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming that you'd be making a play on Apollo, right?
Correct. It would have to be a short play because they're not going to be able to uh, those insurance claims when it on a too big to fail because 50% of the small business debt is held in the regionals that they're insuring, roughly $158 billion. I believe this small business debt is 187 billion, something like that.
So here's going to be my suggestion, because Wall Street Bets is opening up that paper trading thing that they're going to do, and hopefully that'll give us a way to track some of these plays that we can't make. You don't necessarily want to full money. If you sign up for that, put that play in there so we can keep an eye on it and see what it does.
That's a great idea. I saw that. I think it was Copper that put that in yesterday into the chat. Now, from what I understand, that is a competition, and then you just go and you. Well, I'll go check it out. But it's you put in your pros trades on
Hello,
that.
I'm outside. Come on.
What's up,
Yes. No, I'm just playing. I'm just
Freddie?
playing. I'm just coming now. No,
Freddie,
I'm
your
already
mic's open.
here. So just do whatever you got to do fast and then come. All right.
Freddie, you shit.
Freddie,
Where are you?
Freddie, she cannot come any faster. Okay.
Okay. So I see.
I'm lost.
Okay. So.
No,
All right.
Freddie's having a conversation with someone else.
Gotcha. So that kind of was my. I came here with that thesis. Then I was looking for a short play on that. So to go to the competition, the paper competition, and to make that play again, I'm a little bit above my pay grade. How would what would be the recommendation from this group? A short APO within that 24-month, maybe even going out as far as 36 is concerned on an options play.
So honestly, I'm not a really good, strong options guy. But I'd say a good place to look is if you go through Tasty Trade. They tend to kind of show you the best options plays that you can do. Like they give you options on your options.
You're right, and I'm remembering back last week. I didn't. I got to go back. Somebody had put that there was a website strategy options plays, and if anybody remembers that website and can repost that, I'd appreciate it. It's just really complex, and I'm sorry that I was asleep at the wheel during that link.
Okay, I see Bitcoin posted optionstrat.com, so I think that might be the one.
Any way you could relink that to the chat, please? Thank you, if possible.
Yeah, it's on the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, someone is asking what's the ticker?
For Apollo?
Yeah, I guess.
Ticker is APO, Alpha Papa Orange.
Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar. Sorry, I'm. It's been 40 years since my 35 years since my military.
And you think this is going bankrupt?
Well, I think they're too big to fail. I think they're the AIG for the CLOs that are bundled with the corporate debt. 50% of the small debt is going to reset from, say, a 3% interest rate to an 8 on small businesses. And they've bundled those in the CLOs. So if you look at 2008, the CDOs, bad mortgages, and I mentioned this before, and I don't mean to be loquacious, cut me off, is at a standard business debt, there's no such thing as long-term fixed rate corporate business debt, commercial business debt. Every business debt balloons every 5 years based off of, say, a 20-year amortization. Even though they're backstopped by the small business, a lot of them are backstopped by the Small Business Administration. So were mortgages backstopped by Fannie and Freddie in 2008. Those baggish, I'm not going to use that term, those bad mortgages in 2008 were adjustable rate teaser rates. So you have the same thing in small business corporate debt. It was a teaser rate, or low interest for too long. That money's been spent. A lot of these small businesses did not pay that debt off from the pressures of COVID to keep the doors open. So this money's already gone, and now it's going to reset from, say, 3-5% to commercial debt. It's going to amortize within that 60-month frame, wherever they're at, to a new interest rate. It's going to be significantly more than it was when they signed that debt. Got it. As well as all the other pressures with cost of goods and labor going up. So there's a bubble there, and APO is they've bundled that bubble in CLOs, and APO is the AIG that is insuring that bubble.
All right. So Leaping Leopard made a point in the chat, which I think is worth raising, that this thesis is dependent on the Fed not pivoting. So why do you think that the Fed won't pivot and start reducing interest rates?
Well, because of the balance sheet of the Fed. So you're saying the Fed will pivot back to QE and back to cheap money?
The market is pricing in the Fed to cut rates.
So what I'm saying is, and again, I'm not saying it really. It's a Leaping Leopard raised it, so I think it's worth just addressing. It's so does the thesis still hold if the Fed pivots?
I believe it does, because even if the Fed pivots, I don't think we're going to go back to 3% money. And also, all right, let's say the Fed pivots.
Wait, what do you mean 3% money?
We're not going to go back to interest rates at the residential side at being that low. The interest rates are going to be 5, 6, 7%. So with that money being spent at the commercial investment or the loan at this point, we're also, even if the Fed pivots, we're also going to see a continued tightening in the loan structure or the loans being given out. So access, even though the money's more expensive, access to capital is going to be harder to get. So it's basically the check game that these small businesses are playing, and they're not going to be able to write another check against it. independent of what the Fed's doing. They would have to lower rates as fast as they raised them. I can't. I saw even they said they even with the crisis that we just went through, they still raised them a quarter point, and inflation is still, way above the 2% target. The Fed pivot, basically, to answer that question, I think the Fed pivot would have to be faster than the commercial note resets from wherever they're at in that 5-year balloon period.
I swear that like variable rate loans are the worst fucking thing in the world.
I don't think you can get anything other than that on a small business loan. There is no fixed rate small business loan out there, and pretty much even tied to a commercial real estate. Which, if you look at the percentages of loans on the books at the regionals, they separate those out. They separate collateralized through real estate, commercial debt, and non-collateralized debt with basically depreciating assets. Somebody's F-150, the ladders, all of that, business assets. And so to get a fixed, even though they'll backstop it with the SBA, amortized over 20 years to help with payments, they still reset every 60 months. That's a standard business loan, and that's really was the basis of my thesis. A standard business loan today is under collateralized. At least in 2008, you had an underlying house. What's collateralization of this small business? If somebody will turn their keys into their house in 2008, some guy will definitely, who cleans gutters, will say, I ain't going up on that ladder and not making any money. And he'll turn his keys over to that, F-250 after he gives it some whiskey dents.
Did someone just say bourbon?
A little bit early in the day for me, brother.
To each their own. To each their own, my friend.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. I feel you, man.
Hey guys, question for you about these CLO business loan types here. Has anyone, because I'm in Canada, so I'm not really sure how you guys work. Obviously, this does make a lot of sense to do this to APO. Has anyone looked at what the rates they're getting right now and the terms? Like you said, they are 60 months, right?
I said that it's a 20-year AM that balloons every 60 months minimum. A lot of these will balloon 36, or depending on, the risk that the bank takes. But they are all adjustable rate. And on average, if a company's, good credit, they will balloon reset every 5 years.
But they'll hit interest rate adjustments every 36 to 60 months, right?
That is correct.
I mean, it's it's a really good question. I mean, these guys are like flipping drug dealers. I mean, like the first hit is always free. And, you get people into these loans at 3%, 3.25% over 2022, then, you roll into 2023 and suddenly that loan is 6%.
And on top of that, all of their cost of goods are up. The valuation of even if they rent, the owner of the building, look at the taxation on the real estate side because of the appreciation, the inflation in the real estate. Look at the insurance cost to insure that real estate now based off the value of that real estate. Look at the labor cost. We talked about the cost of even raising minimum wage didn't matter because they were offering $15 an hour. And these are small mom and pops that just made it through. A lot of these are small mom and pops. I was amazed to see small business corporate debt, 50% of the total commercial debt in this country.
I mean, to be quite honest, like I would not want to be running any business, any brick and mortar business right now.
If they have essentially 2 years or, less, it's going to start coming out. We're going to start seeing this where the senators and everyone in your guys' house and the speakers, they're going to be talking about this, right? They're going to have to. They're going to have to lower the interest rates.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. Can they lower the interest rates? Because the Fed's target for inflation is 2%. This is the contagion. How it all started, and again, cut me off if I'm being loquacious. I couldn't understand how the SVB problem jumped to the regional banks. There was nothing there that was apples to oranges, and I couldn't believe that it was just a run on the bank. And so that's how I came up with this. Now, are people talking about it? You saw Elizabeth Warren, and I know she jumps up in righteous indignation every chance she gets a microphone in front of her face. She jumped up and told Powell that 2 million people are going to be put out of work. And he's basically like, yeah, well, that's the price we have to pay. Well, those 2 million people put out of work are going to be at small business level. They're going to get hit first. With that said, the unemployment numbers of being under 5%, they're going to raise interest rates. I believe they're raising interest rates until they see a chink in the armor of the labor numbers, because everything else has been,
That's right.
on
Yeah,
pace.
they need them to go back to work.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was just saying that's right, because they need people to go back to work.
Well, the problem's not really about people going back to work. It's that everyone's working.
Right. And we all know 5 people out of 100 that are just there until they can be replaced. So, when we have 3.5 or 3.8% unemployment and inflation is still at 6.5%, I don't see how the Fed pivots on that. At least pivots short term enough to make up for the rises that they did as fast as they did against the 24 to 36 months on the average that these loans are going to start to feel the pain of resetting.
Again, though, like I always go back to this. Like the Fed has said in no uncertain terms that their whole goal is to increase unemployment to reduce labor cost. Okay, so the idea is to have some businesses, draw back, or let's be honest, fail. So there is a goal of failing businesses here.
What's
And
that going to do to the balance sheet and trickle up to these CLOs and the insurer of that?
Exactly. So, like, if you're trying to get people to fail, they're also trying to choose who fails because it's really clear that they don't want some of the big players to go under because that doesn't have anything to do with economics. It has everything to do with that's the political aspect of it, right? And that's not really a question of which political party you belong to. That's all of them, okay? Like
I don't know if that's the agenda. What I think we're going to see is we're going to see the most vulnerable or the least collateral, the worst. Earlier in the chat we were talking about some gentleman talked about in a liquidity crisis borrowing against his 401k or his Roth IRA. In a liquidity crisis, you've got to find funds. So if the small banks are going to be more cautious on lending, and this small business person who's, really doesn't have a lot of cash reserves coming out of COVID, and they have to pay higher interest on money already spent, and they can't get a loan to do so, there's a massive liquidity crunch there. I think that's independent of any agenda politically.
I mean, I do agree, but then there's also the side of like letting banks like SVB fail, not insuring above what the FDIC is actually intended to insure. Those are moves that are not just to protect banks in general, but to protect particular groups of people. And again, one of the problems I have is when you make moves like this, like what the Fed is doing right now, where they're refusing to let bad businesses fail, you're setting yourself up for the entire system being compromised, rather than letting the weak and the poorly run businesses get shed from the system.
You're right, but that will not change. There is no way that either party is going to let that happen, and I know that to be I believe that to be a fact. I don't know that for sure.
I agree with you.
We're looking at an election cycle, so nobody's going to get up and go, you know what? You're going to have to feel the pain on this one. And if, in fact, you notice that the GOP's kind of sitting on their hands, raising the debt ceiling for the very same reason.
Yeah, and another thing that if you do that, it's kind of like same thing with just the average American. Like, let the average American fail when he loses his job, has no savings, just go fuck himself. Like, you have to save the small businesses in order to keep the economy balanced. Otherwise, you're just gonna have big businesses with big money just taking over everything. As you probably noticed with Amazon and so forth, pushing them out.
And the American public has a disdain for globalization. I mean, nobody loves, even though everybody shops there, nobody loves Walmart. The
cheaper price, man.
the honeymoon with Bezos, the honeymoon with Bezos and Amazon is going to come to an end once the newness wears off, or once the easiness, post-COVID hangover, easiness is shit being delivered to our door, runs off. I expect it to run out when he buys an NFL team. Then everybody's gonna, be like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, you always see people who say, I hate Walmart, I'm never going to shop there again. And to actually follow through.
And that's why I'm also looking at those dividend aristocrats, and on side of that, I have a watch list on, because we're clearly going to be in a sustained recession for a while. There's no doubt about it. Just if we agree on these small business pressures, it's and the Fed not being able to pivot for that very reason, that thesis being solid, not 100% right, obviously, potentially, but we know we're going to have a prolonged recession because the Fed is, trying to make people unemployed. So with that said, you're going to see Walmart go long on Walmart, go long, especially on these dividends. But also, don't forget, Kroger announces earnings on May 23rd. So you're looking at these grocers. People are going to spend less money eating out and more people going home, which is going to raise earnings, which is going to raise asset value of those stocks.
Anyone else been noticing that the prices of just like what used to be cheap is like no longer cheap, whether it's fast food, whether it's Walmart? Like, you go to Walmart and you're almost getting the same price as you go anywhere else, grocery store wise. Like, you could get the great value anywhere, right? And then even Costco, outside of their membership increase, like, is the value really there if you're just like a couple? Like, I mean, of course, if you have kids, the bulk buying is great, but even like their produce and shit sucks dick. That shit gets bad like the next day. But
that's called inflation. Absolutely, we are here. People, and
Exactly. So then, how do you justify going to Walmart versus just going to your local Harris Teeter or a higher end, quote unquote, higher end type grocery store for your foods and products, right? Like, I'm not going to go to Walmart if it costs the same as going to Harris Teeter or Wegmans, right? I mean, of course, Wegmans and shit's going to be way more, but
I think all of the prices are going up, but the people who have the contracts to buy, better contracts to buy in certain segments, it's all relative. So if I was charging a higher price 6 months ago and we all have, raised labor cost, all of our prices go up, but there's still a gap between the two. So I'm, there's not price fixing in the commodity of food yet.
yeah, I guess my point is that like people are just going to go towards where the best price are, and that means multiple grocery store hopping. Like they're going to go here for this, they're going to go Kirkland for that, and so forth and so forth. People are not going to be loyal to just one place because the price won't adjust for
Well,
just
they,
here.
they already do that. That's not going to really change most people's habits. I
So
can tell you.
how does Walmart become bullish then? I guess it was my point here. Then like, no one's going to change that habit if people are already doing this. So what's
Well,
going to make places like
if
Walmart?
if they're going for higher end stores, it becomes slightly bullish for Walmart because if you look at Walmart's chart back for the '08 recession, a couple months after the recession started, their stock skyrocketed. If we don't have a recession, it's not really that bullish for Walmart right now. The stock is extremely cyclical when operating under normal conditions, and it generally starts sliding down to about 110, 115 in about September, October, and starts going back up. And so right now, if you're wanting dividend play, yeah, sure, but it'd probably be what you'd be better off waiting until a few more months.
Well, and that's why it's great for the dividend aristocrats, if in that sector, if you can get them, or a company, even if they're not an aristocrat, a company that does a dividend. So if that dividend, if you're wrong on the appreciation of the stock price, and you can hold it, you're still going to get the dividend.
But like, you want to compare the 2008 with Walmart with today. One, Walmart prices are significantly higher because what? Inflation, as Avid pointed out, right? Like 2008 didn't have that same problem, in my opinion, at least not at this scale. So the profitability, trying to compare one to one, is just I don't see it there for Walmart. I'm not saying I'm bullish or bearish. I'm neutral until someone can convince me otherwise. I just don't see it skyrocketing like it did in 08.
We didn't have an inflation in 08. It was the exact
Exactly.
opposite.
It was like three. Yeah, it was like low, right? Like threes or twos even.
Exactly, and that's and the Fed's point. See, this is the position, Bourbon. This is and it's difficult. It's really complex because we were talking at what I was making the point 10 days ago or so. At what point is raising interest rates actually causing inflation? And I think we've hit that. I think Powell knows that, and that's why he's pulled back to a quarter point, as well as the bank run. But if he continues to raise rates, these small businesses don't all of a sudden get a reamortization and a loan and go, oh, I got to pay more. These people are smart people. They don't drive off the hood ornament. They're like, I'm going to be crushed by the new interest rates that are coming up. I better raise my prices. So every time the Fed raises its prices and that small business owner knows he's going to have to pay more, he's going to have to build that into his price. And that's how you get a raise in interest rates being counterproductive to inflation.
Yeah, I mean, it work both ways, but you gotta fix it by increasing interest rates to lower demand. So econ 101.
Exactly, man, and that's why I don't think the Fed can pivot. And I know that the I believe, I don't know, that's egotistical. I think that bubble is suspect. and you know, it's really going to hurt when the layoffs hit side of the right now. And we mentioned this yesterday. Right now, the majority of the layoffs that we're seeing is in, you know, white collar or administrative white collar. And somebody had mentioned, I think it was Justin yesterday, or somebody in that group had mentioned that, you know, Amazon was laying off too. And I thought I misspoke on that, but correct me if I'm wrong. Most of Amazon's layoffs currently in the administrative side, they're not in the warehousing side. So as soon as that changes, as soon as this starts hitting John Q six-pack that, you know, can't afford the 30-pack of Keystones at night that he drinks to deal with this shit, that's when it's going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think the warehouses are also being affected, and then they plan to do a bunch of layoffs in the next 2 years for the warehouses because out of all the areas of growth in terms of employee count was the warehouses to meet demand when people were buying everything online because of COVID. So the warehouse are going to get stricken pretty hard.
Leaping leopard, and if layoffs hit all and things bubbles pop, the Fed will be forced to pivot. I agree, and that's the rubber band effect. I don't think they could pivot fast enough. There's going to have to be a backstop, but the liquidity that's in these businesses, you're basically looking at a second round of PPP to keep the doors open without the basis being COVID, and I don't know what that looks like, man. That's a great point, though. You're right. They will be forced to pivot. How fast and how effectively? Once the house is on fire, it doesn't matter, and it's to the point of burn to a certain point. It doesn't matter if 1 or 3 fire trucks show up; it's still going to get burnt to the ground. And I don't mean that in a doomsday situation.
Yeah, I mean, unsavory kind of hit the nail with Dollar Tree and Ollie booming. Like, why isn't it booming then?
Somebody made a comment in the chat earlier about McDonald's MCD. Again, a dividend whale. Excuse me, a dividend whale that plays well in recession. I do park money in McDonald's. I don't like the business. I don't like the product, but it seems to be bulletproof. But Walmart and McDonald's both are good dividend stock, and I reinvest those dividends in those. But they're definitely good recessionary plays.
McDonald's is also like a REIT too. I mean, they own a lot of real estate, lease it to their franchisees. They have great
So is
real estate.
so is Walgreens. I agree, but Walgreens I think are just going to have downward earnings based off the fact that people are not going in getting their COVID shots. I'm long on McDonald's, but I'm not long. I'm not bearish, but I'm not long on Walmart. I like both companies because primarily they hold a tremendous value in their real estate holdings. But I think the earnings, because of COVID boosters, foot traffic being diminished greatly, I am not. I'm not playing Walgreens because of that.
Well, I'm gonna head out again, so I'll talk to you guys probably not tomorrow, but Thursday. So I'll see you guys later.
Take it easy.
Okay, well, the, the floor is open to new considerations, uh, new gambles. If you haven't been up here, if you haven't talked to Wall Street Bets, now's your opportunity. Put your hand up, and we'll put you up here. You can talk about. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. You can talk about it.
Is that Georgia?
Yeah, I'm making pendants on my jewelry bench.
Is that Georgia?
You know, Georgia Underwood is not just like my username on Reddit and Discord. It's also my eBay store. By the way, so you just go over there and see whatever I have to sell over there. I just sell things that I come by, and, um, and I'm cheap as far as other listers. I'm pretty cheap. I don't expect anybody will buy anything, and I don't want you to actually buy anything. I have plenty of money. I have plenty of success stories. it's just a fact of what I do and who I am. That's all.
Georgia, so what are you pimping, baby?
Yeah, I'm not printing anything. I'm making pendants for like ladies pendants. Nice flowing dresses, and they have like a nice pendant around their neck. You know, I'm
Oh, right
making.
on. Is
Yeah,
that with some of those gems you were showing us yesterday?
yep. Stacks and stacks of cabochons. You might have to look up what a cabochon is, but it's just a dome type of stone. And so yeah, I have customs. I've got yeah. Uh, it's folks, for me, it's not about profit. Honestly, it's about what I can do with my life. So profits, I have seen quite a few of those, and some of those are going on. I think people are on the verge of discussing a couple of different varieties of profits with the collateralized mortgage obligations, and also Scald with his, Scald with his Visa Mastercard play. He's neglected to mention that historically speaking, Visa Mastercard play is also would have been a winner. So he's backtracked it, and yeah, Visa is more progressive, and I'm going to join him on that. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do a short-term option though. I might just buy a couple shares and short a couple shares. So, uh,
Are you talking Visa? I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm okay.
yeah, no, yeah. I might buy a couple shares of Visa and then short a couple shares of Mastercard.
So back to your eBay, Georgia. You're 99.3% positive feedback, and you have 729 items sold. Quite impressive portfolio, my friend.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be the eBay story. Yeah. 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 And if you buy something from me and it gets fucked up, I'm like just start sending you crap. Yeah. I mean, I don't like you. I don't cheat people. I'm honest, but I am a gambler.
Very interesting. I don't know where I was, but there's like antiques type items similar to what you see at George's house on eBay. One of them was like a hit or a German Nazi helmet with a bullet shot through it. The hell is that?
I've got a jet. I got to meet a electrical inspector. But hey, I appreciate you guys. Have a good day. Thank you.
Peace out, Evan. George, is that a fucking mint or an egg or is that an AirPods? All right. Oh my, that was definitely wrong. Is that an Infinity Stone? Interesting. You're on mute if you're talking, Georgia. Do 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 do.
What in the fuck nation is that? Thank you, Georgia. What's up, Holio?
Hello. I
Howdy.
noticed. I saw. Obviously, everyone's probably seen this. China and Russia, and a few other countries leaving the U.S. dollar. And I saw someone was talking about like if Saudi Arabia leaves the U.S. dollar as well. I was just wondering if anyone had any more information on that.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. dollar has notoriously been our way into what we call democracy of freedom, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it's our way to keep the money printer going because the more we have in fluctuation, the better it is for us overall. Countries have tried to push back and use their own set of currencies or another nation's currency. And obviously, like with Libya and some other countries, that has clearly been overtaken with the U.S. being involved and trying to overtake some of those nations. But it's interesting to see all the new news coming out, but it's not. It could cause more hyperinflation, or it could cause hyperinflation because then you have all this money that is just printed that isn't floating through a whole nation, and now that is very worrisome. So that was my only speculation, like your typical conspiracy stuff. But as nations continue that trend, which they will, especially if they're protected by Russia and China, that's going to cause even more problems.
Did you see
Aramco did buy a 10% stake in a big Chinese chemical company yesterday.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people have been bullish on JD, and Baba, I think, because of Michael Burry. So, I mean,
I saw the Kenyan president told all his citizens to get rid of any U.S. dollars that they have because it won't be worth anything in the next couple weeks.
The U.S. dollar won't be worth anything, or just for Kenya?
Yes, for Kenyan residents, like that's what they said. They said they're moving away from it. It won't be, basically get rid of it if you have it, to his citizens.
Yeah, I did see that. I just didn't really understand what the hell that meant. Like, U.S. dollars would be worthless? What? Question mark? But I guess for them. Maybe you should follow El Salvador and invest in Bitcoin as their currency, just for it to go down like 90%. But yeah, if more nations continue doing it, U.S. dollar value will go down even more. More money will be out there that's not being used up, and it'll have to go somewhere. What will we do without Kenya? Businessman, you're right. Kenya's the least of my worries, but the trend continues. most of these countries have to use USD to convert to each other anyway. That is correct, Shaper. That's our only saving grace. But as soon as that conversion need for the US dollar disappears, problem will consist. What's people's thoughts on Coinbase, and with everything going on? Honestly, I hope they go to fucking zero. People still use them, but I don't know, those bald-headed Voldemort-looking people as the owners are just need a little reality check. Oh, that's interesting. I just got a Unusual Whales Coin Bulls opening $70 calls for April 6th expiration. They're paying about $1.90 an option right now. So unusual activity within that Coinbase call option.
Yeah, I'm still in my Riot crypto stock. Seems to have caught a bid right now. Probably from that coin thing.
You're in Riot shares
No options.
and you're down?
No, I'm up.
Okay, so you just bought it.
I know it's a long-term hold.
Oh, you went long up. Nice. Yeah, I mean, the next bull run for Bitcoin is coming up, so I always tell people load up when a new bottom is made in crypto, and then just hold till bull cycle ends. But if we go into a recession, then Bitcoin has never been in a recession, and therefore trend could invalidate, and bear market could prolong.
Yeah, it depends what causes the recession, I think. If it's like the banks could be bullish on
Correct.
crypto.
I don't think it's the banks, but it does. I mean, it always ties to the banks with loans or something, right? Like, oh, it was mortgage and housing, but I don't know if it'll be banks, but banks will get a beating.
Yeah, people may get tired of the banks and just want to switch, though.